All right, gentlemen. So we're back with part two, and I'm glad that you came over to see part two on BJ's channel. But in case you haven't seen part one, go over to my channel and check out part one. There's a lot of interesting stuff being discussed there as well. But for now, on to part two. BJ.
Yeah, welcome back, guys. Welcome back. We've just you've probably noticed we've got a special guest with us today, Papa Beard, and Papa Beard has managed to hit rank 1 this season. So we wanted to get him on. He's been talking about his Ultramarine deck that he's built this season, and if you haven't seen it yet, we also did a little co-pilot session where he coached me through the deck. That's up on my YouTube channel right now, so please go check it out. Yeah, what we've been talking quite heavily about is kind of like the state of the game. We've talked a lot about the meta over on Ecclesiarch's channel. We've talked a little bit about some of the changes that we'd like to see and what we think will kind of be a positive direction for the game. And we're going to build on that in part two. So yeah, just first of all, before we kind of get into a little bit more about kind of the current balance of the game and sort of card of the week and stuff. What are you? We're probably 10 days away from the end of the season now. I think we're probably going to get a balanced patch, and we're possibly, and I'm hoping, we're going to get some new cards because this game badly needs. It's the best season. It's the best meta we've had, but it does need some new cards. It needs some new things to
Yeah.
play with. Before that happens, though, in the next couple of weeks, what are you guys going to focus on? What's your plan? Are you going to? I know you sort of didn't play ladder much at the end of last season, did you, Ecclesia? And you weren't particularly bothered about pushing. What are you planning on doing for like the next
Here's
10
the
days?
thing. Like, one of the main problems I usually have with pushing the ladder in any game
Mm,
and ranked in any game that exists in general is that I have a very hard time playing one and the same thing because I get bored very
mm,
quickly. And
I have
the
that as well. Yeah.
season like before that, your first season you had only Ultramarines being viable with a couple of things maybe being able to fight it. So I had to play Emotech all the time, and I got bored, so I didn't climb. Then this next season it was Gaskell, and I got bored and I didn't climb because yeah, very fun. Gaskell, 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 Makari abuse, Gaskell. So yeah, but now since there's a pretty stable meta overall, now I'm climbing and I'm mainly using three warlords, which is Abaddon, Uriel, and Grook. All three of which I rated as S tier in my tier list. I put all three of them on top of the tier list. I think that they're the best choices in terms of climbing right now. And my plan is to push these three warlords until the end of the season. I'm not aiming for like very very high, but I would love to be in the top 10 if possible, to get some
Mm.
nice card back over there.
Yeah, they just released the card packs, didn't they, today? Did you see them?
Yeah, and I and I
Yeah.
and I really like it. So I'm gonna get the top
Mm.
10 one, or actually gonna think if I like the top 51 better, I might actually push for that. It's all about the visual side for me, so doesn't matter. I'll drop if I like that one better, but I think I'm gonna try to get like at least 7 or 8 by the end of the season. If
Yeah.
not, it is what it is.
So you're going to
Plus,
stick with those three decks?
yeah, I'm definitely sticking with those three decks because first of
Cool.
all three were. Let me tell you, Grook was always my go-to orc even before, and you know that even before orcs became a thing. I used to love it. And Abaddon, I played Abaddon last season. Like nobody can tell me in their right mind that I'm meta hogging him or something because I played Abaddon all last season and I was
And he's
putting.
only tier 4 now anyway, so.
I wouldn't say so. I placed it. Oh, actually, I placed. Yeah, I placed him on the top tier as well. Yeah, that's right. But the thing is, last season I played a lot of Abaddon and I enjoyed it. Even against the Gaskull's onslaught, it was pretty fun. And well, Uriel, I have to play him out of like. First of all, it's super fun. I've mentioned many times it reminds me of Loken, my favorite, one of my favorites from Horus Heresy Legions, and like I would be a very bad person if I did not play Uriel right now because if you remember, I suggested the extra card and they did it. So like, what kind of a guy would I be if I didn't play some Uriel, right? I was actually very happy to see that change. Maybe it wasn't even taken from the suggestions that we made, but in either case, like it
It's
was
been a
something
great change.
it's something that I wanted
Mm.
to see the extra card. I remember just how much of a
It's very cool.
difference it made. You know where the idea came from? In Horus Heresy Legions, you had like in Sons of Horus, you had at first Loken, Abaddon, and Horus. Horus used to play as this burn tactic type. Abaddon used to play more controlly, And Loken was the swarm aggro. You know why? He had 30 HP only. But the whole thing with him was that he had this warlord ability that dealt damage similar to Uriel, and he also had this extra card. So because of that, you could actually swarm the board. So I was like, why not give Uriel that? And now he's pretty good. He's definitely pretty good. So
Very good.
those were
Yeah.
those are my three picks of choice.
Okay.
What about you boys?
Well, just quickly say on that, I tell you a video I'd love to see you do
Mm.
is to like track your results for those three decks, and then at the end of the season do like a mini review and
Yeah.
just kind of like look back and say, well, you know, what how many games did you play with each? What was your win rate? Like, what did you find out? I think that would be really cool actually to see at the end of the season.
Right now, I am
Um,
tracking the Grook, so I'm gonna be talking about that for sure.
yeah, yeah. What about you, Bid? What you thinking? Are you going to stick it out with Uriel now to the end and see if you can get that golden card, that number one spot, or what are you thinking?
Definitely, definitely. I just lost rank 1 today. I had a really bad run. Not a bad run. I had around to like 55-60% win rate. The issue is in the current LP system, it's if you rank 1, you win like 5 to 6 points against human opponents, and you lose 20 to 28 points. So you
Mm,
need like an over 80% win rate just to break even. And
mm,
this is crazy. If you go on a 3-game losing streak, I lost 2 to Ecclesiarch today because yeah, he ran over me with Grook and the Green Hordes on turn 3 and 5. And it's just like if you lose 3, you need to win at least 11 games to just have your appeal
Mm.
back. And like you said, the meta is it's pretty balanced at the moment, so it's kind of hard, and it's frustrating that even if you have a positive win rate, that you're losing LP. So it's gonna be kind of hard, but I will try to get rank 1 back. And I will stick to Uriel definitely because
mm.
the deck is so much fun with all the combinations you have with Codex and various good matchups. Because except Imotech is not even that bad. I played Imotech 5 times today, beat him all 5. That was a first, but he doesn't have bad matchups. And I think there is no really frustrating thing going on right now, which makes me say, no, I can't win with Uriel against that.
Yeah, yeah. If you've got a good deck right now, you always feel like you're in any game, don't you?
You played it
So
yourself, right? So it's
yeah,
always at least a close game, a good fight. It's you never feel helpless.
mm. Yeah. I think it's a great deck for ladder. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of experimenting this season. As most of you know, like I've been quite a big Orc player, and so happy days last season for me. It was like, hey, Gaskell, you know, Grook was just like, and to be fair, I know everyone moans about it, but like, I honestly still don't know what the best Gazgul deck was last season. There were so many Gazgul decks. I played like 10 different decks, and um, you know, but what's cool this season, I think, is that I decided like rather than just grinding with obviously a Gazgo, I'm gonna like really spend the first half of the season experimenting. You've only got to look at my deck, guys. I've played a lot of decks, and I've not played more than 20 games with one deck. So as soon as I've hit that 20, I've just moved on and just tried lots of new stuff. And I've actually really enjoyed doing that. I actually think my favorite deck this season has been Neurothroat, which has
Mm.
completely surprised me. I didn't think I was going to do, but I've hit on a deck that I just find it to be. I don't think the power spike is as high as a Swarmlord, but I do find it to be more enjoyable and a little bit more. I feel a bit more in control of it. Like Swarmlord's a bit like sometimes you have these scenarios with Swarmlord. We had it, Ecclesiarch, in our Forge Clash where it's like, okay, I drew, you know, Broodlord and Ravenous Hunter, I win. It's like, you know, it's like, but then it's like, oh, I didn't draw this. Whereas I feel like with Neurothrope, there's more micro decisions to be made, and it's got a slightly earlier curve as well. So I'm playing like Biovores and Sporocysts, and I'm really enjoying it and doing really well with it as well. Like really well
I
with it.
just want to
So
put one thing out there. Like I've mentioned this. I think a lot of people were actually saying that, like Mr. Midnight, and I think so, if I'm not mistaken, and some others, that Neurothrope is probably one of the best designed warlords they got right now because he's just good. He's not
super
crazy good.
flexible.
Maybe Tyranids themselves have some problems, but the warlord itself is really nice. So you can heal, you can give unit some HP, you can deal some extra damage, you can do something with like the synapse. So it's overall a pretty good warlord. You know, it's
Yeah.
well designed. That's why I made that panic video about the tyranny changes, because like, okay, no, because 1 energy, 2 health, that just leave that warlord alone. It's a good
God.
warlord, right? So
Well,
Yeah.
well, as I say,
yeah.
I'm not playing like I'm experimenting a lot, so I'm moving about. So I've only actually got 10 games against human opponents on ladder so far with Neurothroat, but it's sitting at 80%. Yeah, so it's one of my basically that and Gazgal Aggro are my two just pure highest win rates right now. Um, so like it's super fun deck. But I think what I love about this meta is that currently, if you look at my decks, I've literally got 6 decks now or 7 decks. But I look at these decks now and I'm like, I can play the rest of the season just with these decks, and I think any of them I
Mm.
could climb with. You know, there's your Abaddon deck. I mean, obviously I can't climb with that because I can't play Chaos, but I've got it there. I've got Papa's Uriel deck, which I'm definitely going to play more of. I've got Shrigma's Galen deck, which I've been playing a lot of today and doing really well with that. I think that's currently at 73%. I'm doing really well. It's a good deck. And then what else have I got in there? What am I missing? What am I missing that's good at the minute? Can't think off the top of my head. Swarmlord obviously is one of them. And the Grook control. Yeah, the Grook control. I don't do the Grook aggro, your Grook aggro list. I like the control version.
Yeah,
Um,
this one is a face
but
troll.
the thing is, with all of those decks, this is how I know the meta's good right now, because all of those decks are all playable, all perfectly climbable with. So my plan now is I'm not going to build any new decks. I'm just going to play the rest of the season, just alternate between those decks and just keep playing. I've climbed up to like top 30 today, so hopefully I can still finish decent. I'm
Uh,
not too fussed where I finish, as long as I'm in the top 50. I'm not too fussed.
you know where I got the Grook idea from, BJ? It was actually pretty funny. The same deck I had for Karn in Horus Heresy Legions, it had maximum 4 energy. And you know what Karn's ability was in Horus Heresy Legions? It was pretty funny. He had Bloodthirst by default, so he could attack twice every turn. And his ability was, when you attack, deal 1 damage to a random unit, including himself and his unit. So it was just a such a funny thing. Like, you play against Karn, he's like every turn, "Hoorah! Hoorah!" And it was very funny sound when he attacked. And like, games were over by turn 3, either he died or you did. So I was like, maybe I can
Right.
do something like that in Warforge, and there you go.
Yeah,
There
and
it
with
is.
your luck as well, your
Oh
mulligan
yeah,
joint luck. I mean,
oh
it's that
yeah.
deck's tailor made for you, and that deck is sick. That deck, that when that deck goes off, it's just stupid. It's probably the closest thing to making you think there's
Mm,
something broken in the deck, and the Green Horde is a bit broken if it goes off on turn 3. Let's be honest. So,
mhm,
I mean, that deck is insane, but it is a bit inconsistent. So
mhm.
back to what Papa said, when you're in the top 10, if you get an inconsistent draw and then lose 30 points, you could have a 65, 70% win rate and still not
Yeah.
really go anywhere. So that's the kind of trade-off with that at the top of ladder. But um, all right, let's bring back something that a lot of people have been asking for. Card of the week.
Oh
A
yeah.
little mini segment. Let's go around and do that, and then we'll perhaps finish the podcast just with a little bit talk about kind of what we think the game most needs, and we can talk a little bit kind of like balance and balance changes and stuff like that. So card of the week, what we do is we just go around like, what is your card of the week? It doesn't have to be like the best card in the game. It's just a card you're enjoying using, and also an underrated card. So a card that you think actually has got potential right now, or is a little bit kind of under the radar. So Papa, do you want to kick us off? What's your? I've got a feeling I know what you're going to say for card of the week, but let's see.
Yeah, my card of the week is kind of not a surprise. It's the chaplain, of course,
The
of the
chaplain.
Ultramarines.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say
Because
chaplain. Yeah.
nobody used to play that card, never seen it before, and just tried to figure out something to put in the deck that was kind of 4 mana. And looked at the chaplain, realized the stat line itself is not that bad, and then I realized like
So
this card can
just for
come
the
up.
audio, sorry, Papa, just for the audio listeners, we're
Yeah,
talking about the Ultramarine chaplain. It's a 4 energy. Is it 4 melee, 3 range?
like
Mhm.
4 melee, 3 range, 5 health. Codex give 1 to all your units,
Codex give 1.
to all your troops.
Yeah.
And no vehicles, but that doesn't matter because I only run the impulsors,
Mhm.
two
Yeah.
of them,
Yeah.
and which they even give units that you can buff, and if it pops off, and especially with the tactical insight, it is amazing which kind of trades you can make. I wanted to make a screenshot today where I had like 2 chaplains on the board with one Sternguard sergeant who was at 6 attack. Oh, and he
That's
traded
brutal.
into an apothecary from Calgar. This card, it's so, I love it. This is my
It's
Ultramarine pick of the week. Definitely love this card. But after our video yesterday that we did today, I saw a couple of Ultramarine decks playing this card, so I
yeah.
guess people are trying it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm literally trying to. I also took some screenshots, just for us. I'm putting it in our chat of my chaplain success today. Yeah, chaplains. It's you really sold me. You really sold me on that. And again, if people haven't watched our little masterclass that we did on Uriel, go and find that on my channel. But you really convinced me of that over the honor guard, and I've really been enjoying it as well. So yeah, that's cool. What about underrated then? Is there a card that you just think is, maybe it's got a bit of potential or it's not really appreciated or a bit underplayed at the minute?
On the plate, I could think about a card. I mean, one card that is underrated, I think, is Humanity Shield from Ultramarines, but I could
Oh
also
god.
name under. People don't realize how strong this card is and how to use it right. Some people use it prematurely, which you shouldn't be afraid. And also, some people use it also only at the end. Uh, Sometimes I use this card just to avoid like 6 or 7 damage because I know the 6 or 7 damage will save me in the end game. Because, for example, you're playing against Imotech, and you have to remove. You have 7 mana, and you have an Impulsor in hand, and there he just removed the Judicar with the Doom Sight, and it is 2 health left. So I pop Humanity Shield, pop the Codex on Impulsor, clean it for 5 damage, so it doesn't take 5 damage, and pop the Codex. It's worth it. 2 mana, 5 health, and immune the next turn too. It is
100%.
it is underrated in the way that you can play it. It's not a finisher or a save if your enemy has 8 troops on board and you are empty against Grook. It's not that kind of card, but it's a card that has a lot of value and is. I don't want it to get nerfed, but it's too strong for 2 mana.
Yeah, there's a lot of good tactics you can play like with it as well. I've seen it used to counter the Exarch from Eldar. They play that. It's in stealth mode. 8 damage coming your way. You just pop the Humanity Shield and go, yeah, whatever. I'm going to develop.
Yeah. And he
Yeah,
loses stealth, so you can attack him next. Exactly.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
there was a card in Hearthstone, a rogue card, that used to cost 7 mana that made your hero immune to the next turn, and it played in every rogue deck.
And it
It
was
was
7
7 mana.
energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Humanity Shield is busted, isn't it? It's so good.
But you only can have 1 copy of it, so.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
our stream yesterday, we saw it. You never have it when you need it. So.
Well, that was why it was so good in the Ultramarine meta, because everyone was playing Calgar. So Calgar draws his whole deck pretty much, and it was like you was getting Humanity Shield in a good sort of 70% of your games. You were getting it. It was so busted. It's not as bad with Uriel because yeah, you don't draw it as often, but it's still brilliant when you do for sure. Ecclesiarch, what about you? What's your card of the week?
Actually, it's pretty funny, but it's Green Horde. And
Boo.
I think this is like something that people are sleeping on so much. Like,
People are sleeping on the Green Horde. Really? What's going on?
I'll tell you what the thing is. That's because people like. So basically, when Gaskell was Omega broken, there were mainly 2 types of Gaskells that were running around. One was the classic control one with tempo and vehicles and stuff, and then was a little bit of the inconsistent Gaskell with Green Horde just hand vomiting. But the
Never
thing
got
was
that.
that was not a good deck in a sense that it was
No.
inconsistent, but people still got away with it because Gaskell was so strong, right? So
Yeah,
in theory it should not have been good because the lack of draw that Gaskell has, but it still worked because it was too broken.
It
Because
still worked because basically Gazgul playing his hero power and Makari was enough to win any game.
Yeah, pretty much.
It didn't matter what the other 38 cards were in the deck. Really.
And as it usually happens, as soon as a warlord gets nerfed, a lot of people just stop playing him. There are still people playing Gaskell and playing him well, and I respect that. But there's like people who just like, oh, it's nerfed now. I'm not gonna play my big overpowered warlord anymore. Like, seriously, man, like what the hell? So there's like a lot of people that are not playing orcs anymore, and I think people forgot that Grook can use Green Horde like to an insane efficiency. Because the thing with Grook is the kind of deck that I'm running right now has maximum of 4 energy, which means that the units that I'm running on him are Makari, Slaga Boys, Storm Boys, the Knob, the Bikes, Shuta Boys, and the last one is the Grot Gang, basically, right?
You also run the
So
Hornhelms, don't you? You run
no,
the
no, no.
three. You
I removed it. I
And
removed it.
and you
oh,
run a
you
squig.
remove.
You run a squig.
Yeah, and squig thingy. Yeah, basically. So all of these units are good with the Green Horde, except for maybe the squig because you know. But it's in most cases when you press the Green Wa, you're getting a good unit. So that really buffs the consistency of it a lot because you hard mulligan for Green Horde, and if you have Green Horde in your hand, it takes you like 1 or 2 red Was to just, unless you're obscenely unlucky, to get like insane amount of units there. So it really closes off a lot of games right in the early game. The only thing that maybe is keeping this group in check a little bit at least is that Spawndom exists basically. So and there's a lot of Abaddons right now, but there's
Yeah.
not there's still like not there's a high chance that they're not gonna have that. Right now, I am going with the Grook at 22, so 2 losses against Abaddons. One of those was like pretty stupid loss, I swear to God, because the guy top decked everything on me, so it was too nuts. But the second one, well, I lost to Murderous Desires, which makes a lot of sense. He played the combo really well. So the first guy played really well as well, but he just also got obscenely lucky, so I'm kind of salty over it. But in any case, Green Horde is definitely like my card of the week because it won me too many games. Now, as for the underrated card, I'm actually go
The
ahead
Green
and
Horde.
at the same time, but underappreciated is definitely Draknian.
Underplayed, right? I think it is underplayed at the minute.
Like I'm gonna put Draknian up there with underrated cards because right now there's the Venom Crawler, obviously. So Venom Crawler is super strong, but because of that, people are not running Draknian. I'm actually running a single copy of Venom Crawler and 1 Draknian. The thing is, I think people are still underestimating how good Draknian can be because that with Murderous Desires is already 12 damage. It's not insanely good. Venom Crawler is probably a little bit better, but it's underrated because it's a good card. Last season, it won me so many games I cannot count. Like, when I was playing against the Gaskell, one of the best ways you could close off a game against the Gaskell was to just aggro him to death until he was able to gain too much control. And Draknian really helped me with that because if you would play Draknian on curve, what happened was that Gaskell just could not withstand the onslaught, which was usually pretty crazy. And I even had like cases of him dropping an art shell, and I was like, okay, I attack the art shell, remove it, and then Murderous Desire into the Warlord after playing Legacy of Hate as well. So it's a bit of an underrated card. I can understand why it's not being played because Venom Crawler is just too good right now, but I would still say it's underrated for what it does.
Do you find it awkward, like not awkward, like clunky? Do you find it sometimes like not sure when to play it? Because that's the only thing I find with Drakenham being like a 6 mana, you're not developing your board.
Yeah, absolutely. Because one of the you remember the Forge Clash when I was playing as Uriel with Haken. When I lost the first game, I even said that I might have won if I did not play the Draknian and dropped something instead. It was a bad play because I lost too much tempo over it.
Yeah.
Best timing for Draknian. Well, Draknian is like almost an auto win in a mirror matchup because what happens is like if you get it on curve and you take out like the opponent doesn't have it, then this is what happens. He drops a big unit, I take it out, I take a chunk of damage, but now I drop a unit and he's losing in tempo and he's most probably going to lose the game. However, yeah, go on.
I was going to say it's good against Swarmlord too, because Swarmlord attacks with melee on not just himself, but a lot of his units.
However, once again, one of the bigger problems is the Venom Crawler, because right now you cannot kill Venom Crawler with Draknian anymore. Previously you could. Now you cannot do it. So it's become more questionable, but I would still say it's underrated, but because it can win you games.
Yeah, sure.
Especially in combination with the Murderous Hunger.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is another underrated card, honestly, because I see only a few Abaddons running in it. I think
Doesn't everybody run it anymore?
No.
because it's such a good card.
Well, I mean, very good Abaddon decks run it for sure. At least one copy. I usually one copy because the lethal range is insane. Like you just need one unit. I remember doing like 38 damage with that once because like I was losing. I had 5 HP. I was playing against Kalgar, and I had like this Plague Marine with some marks on it, some pacts. I gave it Demonic Frenzy. It suddenly had 18 damage, and I was like, okay, 36 damage, and I won the game. So it's a pretty funny card.
Maybe it's with like fewer Gazgals, fewer Orcs. People are dropping those sort of anti-Orc synergies. Although if we start to see a rise in Gruk and the Green Horde, then I mean that is killer. It could be even better than last season.
Honestly speaking, I would say like one thing. One of the reasons I have such a high win rate on the Gruk is that right now the people are not expecting it. If people started to expect it, it would not be that good because Abaddon will then mulligan for spawn them. Galen automatically is a good matchup into it because of the Psychic Blast. Like people are gonna start doing things that are good against it. Not everybody can though. Like
that's true. Yeah, if I'm playing against Gruk, as Galen, which I've been playing today, I automatically just hard mulligan pretty much for Eldritch Storm just to
and
have
if you just clear his board, he pretty much mostly is gonna lose because, as I said, I don't run any even mid game units. I only run the Green Horde synergies and the thing like. Then you just have double Propakili and very high reach. So that's it, pretty much. That's it. So as soon as people know what you're playing, I'll give you a very good example. So Spac Marine was actually playing a very weird type of Gaskell.
Yeah, he was. Oh my god.
He was
I know.
playing a Get 'em
He had
Lads.
every card that had the word that sort of secretly had the word aggro written on it. He just played it.
He had like this he had like this Get 'em Lads.
Get 'em lads, yeah, he had get 'em
Plus
lads.
the
It's like,
plus the
dude, you
proper
try
kill. So he pulled he would tended to pull like a crazy lethal, but as soon as you knew that he had that, it was a little more manageable. So the thing is like when the opponent knows what you're running, it becomes easier to deal with it, of course. That's why you need to sometimes change decks. Unless it's a consistent deck, like Uriel is a different story. Uriel is just a consistent warlord overall. But when you're playing something cheesy, you always have to change a little bit because then people know what exactly you're doing and they're like, you're not gonna do that. So yeah, like for
Definitely.
example, if people know that I'm running like Black Crusade 100%, they're just gonna go hyper aggro because they know that okay, so he doesn't run any low drops most probably, so I'm just gonna bash him to death. So there you go.
People are consistently attacking with the wallet anyway.
Well, that is also true. Even though you're not supposed to do that in most matchups. Oh, and by the way, that's actually one very important thing, knowing when you need to attack. Like when I played against Papa today, until I had the swing of tempo, I did not attack with my Grook because I knew that he was gonna beat me down. So it's like you got even Shumatsu said actually, even though Swarmlord has 3 attack, in a lot of matches you don't attack. Yeah, you just stay safe.
Well, because you know, again, ultimately, if you think about Swarm Mod, you start most games by being the control player, don't you? You're trying to control the board, build a board. You're using Swarm Lord to remove until you've built a board. Then you go, like, I'm going to end the game in like 2 turns, and if I've got Ravenous, I'm going to end it in 1 turn. But yeah, you play as a control. You shouldn't be attacking face with it, and people make that mistake all the time.
Well, yeah, it also depends on what kind of deck you're running. Like when they added Kabanda, the General of Khorne, to Horus Heresy Legions, he had this kind of ability. During your turn, you had 3 attack, not during the enemy turn. But he also had wings, basically meaning that Vanguard didn't stop him. So he could just face bash you every turn, essentially. And
that could be a good ability for Zagstruck, couldn't it? That he can get around Vanguard.
Actually, if you guys remember, I think during the the beta or the alpha, I think ranged attacks used to go over Vanguard.
Okay. I wasn't playing then, but no, that makes sense.
But that was not a good idea because Vanguard is already not that good, so...
It is not as good as Taunt in other games, that's right.
Yeah, for sure. Once again, because...
with all the flank units.
Flank units, Warlord attacking, That's the first kind of a thing I had when I started Horus Heresy Legions. I was like, I came there from Hearthstone and Gwent, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, I start from 2 energy, not 1. Okay, oh, wait, the Warlord has 2 attack. Uh-oh, so that means, like, what I play, he takes out, so ouch.
So my 2 cards I'm going to take from the same faction. As I mentioned earlier, I've played a bit of Neurothrope, and that's kind of been one of my favorite decks this season. I think my card of the week is actually, it's going to sound really boring. Maybe it'll be exciting to new players, and that's the Carnifex. The Carnifex is a basic card. It's super solid. I mean, fortunately, I have the digestion pool, and Ecclesiarch knows. I mean, me and him were grinding like mad last season, trying to get the bloody level 20 on the Forge so that we could play the digestion pool. And that card just changes Tyranids completely. Like being able to drop a Carnifex on turn 2, which is energy 3, like that is. You just watch your opponents cry. They're like, what am I supposed to do with that? Like, they haven't even got to. I suppose Orcs are the only exception, right? Because if they were going first, then it's no mucking about on turn 4 and they can kill it. But anybody else, like, they cannot deal with it. I feel like it's one of the only times in the game, one of the only experiences as a player where you drop a card and feel confident that it will still be there after their turn. Like, it feels so good. I can actually build a plan around it. And because the Tyranids do rely on, like, trying to get this synapse synergy and blah, 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 like, it's super important. I always feel like I'm going to win if I get the Carnifex in the mulligan, and less confident when I haven't got it.
Yeah, you're very rarely going to lose if you do it with Carnifex, yeah.
And of course, I would say 90% of the time I choose the 1 armor. I do think you've got to be mindful of not being on complete autopilot. There's a couple of times that come to mind, like there were one time where I chose one of the others because I calculated lethal next turn, and there was another time where I was going up against what was the enemy had a big flyer,
and you had to go ranged, yeah.
And then I needed the range because obviously you're playing Swarmlord. If you're playing, it's not too bad with Neurothroat, but when you're playing Swarmlord, the range sometimes covers that massive blind spot that Swarmlord's got. So sometimes getting 6 range is actually pretty helpful. But I would still say like 9 times out of 10, certainly 8 times out of 10 at least, you are picking armor. Armor's just too goddamn good, the value that you get from it. The other one I was going to honorable mention was just Neurothrope's Warlord talent. I don't know if that's cheating. I don't know if that counts as a card, but I really have come to respect the humble 1 energy flexibility, because it's like, if you play that on a Synapse creature that is next to Neurothroat and then has a Carnifex on the other side, you're healing your Warlord. You're doing 3 heal for 1 energy, first of all, which is fantastic value. You're increasing the likelihood of your unit surviving, which is a major tactic when you're major strategy when you're playing Tyranids. If one of them's the Carnifex, which we just talked about, he's also got armor, by the way. So +1 health is not just +1 health; it's more like +2, right? So the value off of that measly 1 energy is absolutely fantastic. And then the flexibility. I mean, I've won games where I'm like, I need 1 point of damage for lethal. Oh look, I'll just go to face with the Warlord talent, or pinging that flyer that you've got down to 1. And so I just find the flexibility of it really good. The underrated card for me is the 2-drop in the Tyranids, the Infestation Node.
Ah, yeah, the heal.
No,
I think that's like the.
It's a heal. That's a heal that you get your unit in.
We lost me.
Right?
Yeah, the heal that gives you the copy of a unit. Yeah.
So it heals for 2, and it gives you a copy of the unit. But again, if you play that on a Synapse creature, so one of my favorite things to do is play that on a Synapse with the Carnifex next to it, and then I'll get another Carnifex. And if his plan is to take out the Synapse, then you've got that as well. So it's kind of like that dual strategy again, because I think the heal is so important. It's one of the big things I'm learning really about the Tyranid faction, is to try and heal your units and protect them more. I was a little bit too focused on developing new units before, but I think that's the thing that I'm kind of like really learning. And so that card is superb. And also, like Papa said earlier about, the 3-drop that's now only 2 energy in Ultramarines that draws 2 cards, and how good it is to draw 2 cards for 2 energy. Well, you're drawing 2 cards for 2 energy, and it's less RNG because you are kind of in control about which 2 cards it is. And they're usually quite central to your strategy in the Tyranids, because like if it's a Synapse and a Carnifex or something like that,
And even if you get one for it, the value is very good. Even if
Yeah,
you only do one.
and then the heal, right, which is doubling up because of synapse. So I think the value off of that card is absolutely insane for 2 energy. Actually, obviously it's a little bit situational, which is probably why it is 2 and not a bit more. You can have a clunky hand where it doesn't work, but I've found it to be superb. So super underrated. And as soon as I put that card in and focus more on that for my draw, I've just felt a huge difference, and people probably aren't doing that this season because the 3 energy draw 2 cards got a buff. I think everyone's focused on that, but actually, I think the infestation node is way better, way better. Yeah, yeah. So that's that. Okay, so just to finish up then this week, I thought we'd just kind of round out with a little bit about what we think the game needs, like where the game's at right now. We've all kind of said it's the best meta, so that's positive. But what does the game need, in your opinion, Papa Beard?
Go on, Papa.
Anything in terms of balancing the game, or just to kind of attract new players, or what do you think?
There's one thing I want to talk about really bad, and I think you guys will agree with me. It is way too strong to start out as second at the moment. You get one extra card, you get your defensive card, and you start overtime as first. I think they should balance or do something about that. It's way too strong to go second right now, in my opinion. This is the first thing they should take a look on. Maybe not give the extra card, or that at least the one who starts the game first starts overtime and draws 2 cards. This is one of the things. The other thing is just some tweaks on some cards that are broken, like Ravenous Hunter from Tyranids, the Orc Knob from Orcs, and the Evasive Maneuver from Elder is a big issue. I think it's 4 mana, heal your wallet for 5, and it gives him Camouflage, which makes it impossible for Ultramarines, for example, to lethal them and for to target them with spells. And if they develop a board and have a Vanguard on it, it's worse than Humanity Shield, in my opinion. Because if you decide to don't attack with the Warlord, then he just wins the game. And I think it's not this card, especially it's the Camouflage, which also makes Abaddon, in my opinion, the strongest Warlord right now. Because of Camouflage, he can give big units Camouflage, which cannot be hard removed anymore. And if they have if they have armor and 8 legs, it's horrible. I
But
think
it is random though, isn't it? The Abaddon thing.
No, you can with Dark Pact you can give them Camouflage.
Oh, you just mean Chaos in general. You don't mean
Chaos in general.
Abaddon. Oh, okay.
No, I mean Chaos in general. Sorry, yeah.
Okay,
I mean, I think Camouflage should be changed into just being for 1 turn, or not till it attacks. Because if he has an Apostle and it stays there with Taunt and he just buffs him up and you cannot remove it, it's like too passive of a game style, which I don't like. So rework about that second going second is way too strong.
Yeah.
And maybe change Camouflage and do something about Ravenous Hunger.
Yeah.
I think Ravenous Hunger is also this one kind of card where you can play a game perfectly and your opponent doesn't do anything, then he just draws Ravenous Hunger with a Broadload, and he has like damage potential to one-shot you for 30 HP. I think this is not a healthy playstyle that should be included into the game.
Gotcha. Ecclesiarch, about you, what do you think?
Well, I'm not gonna talk about like the necessity of new factions and stuff. We know that's coming, whatever it is. There's a couple of very important things that this game needs right now. I think that one of the important things that Papa mentioned there is the second thing, but we had a case where when at the start when overtime was the thing, the person who went first got the first overtime, like first 11 energy plus first 2 cards, right? Now, you get this like weird thing. Whoever gets this overtime is in an advantage, right? How about you just remove it, as we mentioned? Like, removing overtime fixes a couple of issues. Let me explain what they are.
Or death, exactly.
remove overtime, and it's already fine to go second and first. Second because some counterattacks are really good, aka like literally against the Tyranids, you always want to go second because you don't want them getting that shit. But even when we were playing the Forge Clash, I was like, oh yeah, we're not going second, yay! So like we're going second, I mean. So that fixes that issue. On top of that, it makes it possible to have card attrition, which I don't like that this game doesn't have. In Legions, we had card attrition, which means that when you have an empty deck, like you take damage, right? More and more. So this is a very good thing that is necessary in all card games, I think. Well, this format style of card games, like in Hearthstone, because at some point that really it also like allows you to play mill decks, which maybe not fun for everybody, but it exists. But the thing is, I think that card attrition should be a thing. And because of the overtime, obviously card attrition is kind of dumb because then you're just overtime is just slowly killing you. So or maybe you could have overtime and add card attrition as well, but that would not be good. I think just add card attrition and remove overtime. I think a lot of people have been requesting to remove overtime. And also there's another thing with overtime that is a problem. A lot of people think that overtime benefits the control decks. Well, that's not true. The overtime benefits the aggro deck because
of course it does. Who thinks it benefits the control
like
deck?
Today, for example, I won a lot of games with Grook because I ran out of troops and I'm supposed to lose. I ran out of cards. I ran out of troops. My red wise not drawing cards. I was playing against Lord Edge, who played his Zephyr Blade brilliantly, honestly. And I'm out of cards. My green wise not red wise not drawing anything, and I won. You know why? Because I drew 2 cards and 1 was lethal. So it's like not good because you survive as the control player, you lived through it, you're there, and suddenly the aggro keeps the aggro coming because the overtime, right? Now, on top of that, I think what they need to do, and I think everybody knows what they need to do, maybe not a lot of people are talking about it though, they need to speed up the animations like crazy. This is like oh my god, man. Like,
the Infinity Circuit on Eldari. It's like I'm waiting for the kind of curtain to come back and I'm going to watch a full theater production. It's
I know that they're going to do it because they already sped up some things like Tyranid buffs and things. It was like a cutscene basically when a Tyranid would buff everything.
Oh, the Tyranid, it was painful.
And on top of that, there's also another thing. They should allow us to pre-move. You know what I mean? Like in Horse Heresy Legions, when I know that I need to attack with 3 units, I would like press all 3 at the same time, 1, 2, 3, and they would do it. But like in Hearthstone even too. But right now in Warforged, you have to wait.
Wait for the animation.
Big flash animation of my Necron shooting his laser, and then the second one. Just speed it up, man. Like, keep this on. I mentioned that I love the aesthetic of Everguild. I love how orcs are shooting, like, their bullets all around, and there's, like, this green lasers with Necrons and everything. But just speed it up, and everything's gonna be fine. That's number 2. Number 3 is, and we know that is coming. Give us the win rate recorder, like, just like in Horus Heresy Legions, to see how many games we have and how much is our win rate. That's absolutely necessary.
Quick question about that. Question about that in HHL. So let's, I don't know, take Grook for example. Obviously, you could build 2 or 3 different decks with Grook. So if I play Grook in a season, does it show me the win rate by the deck or just by
the Warlord? By the Warlord. Only separated by friendly and ranked matches.
Yeah. That's the problem, though, because you could have a really crap experimental deck that you get a 38% win rate, and then one that gets 7%.
They could do that for sure. They could have a deck win rate.
Do it on the deck.
That's an idea. They could have like the Warlord win rate and the deck win rates. That could be pretty good. On top of that, we need a replay system, especially the content creators. We need that because I know that players love live games and that's what they want. But sometimes I make a good game and I wasn't recording and I want people to see it, or I want to make a meme, or I want to make a short or something. I need to be able to do that, and they're already doing that. I know that, and they're gonna have it out very soon.
Did you guys ever play Mythgard? Oh man, their user features are the best I've ever seen in a CCG. So I could click on Papa on ladder right now. You know, like you can click on Papa and it'll bring up his profile and show you, like, you know, he's with, and then it'll say, and then it will show me his match history. I can go, oh look, 2 games ago he played Ecclesiarch. Ecclesiarch was running Grook. I can click on that match and watch the replay.
That would be
I can
pretty good
literally,
as well.
and then when I'm watching, I can like fast forward and speed up and all of that and rewind and all that stuff. It, I mean that was
Great.
brilliant. That
That
was
would be a
really
great
cool.
quality of life change. Yeah.
There's another
Yeah.
thing that I would definitely like to see. This is probably more down the line. I would not demand this from EVGG to do it very quickly because there's a lot of work to do as it is, but I would like to see the Forge reworked a little bit because,
Yeah.
first of all, right now the grind is inhuman. The amount of grind you have to do to go beyond like level 20 is nuts. And Tyranids are also in a very bad spot. They have a very good counter attack, but you have to grind until 20 to get it, which is really unfair because almost all the factions get their best counter attack at the start. Maybe minus the Eldar, who have a better one later on, but the one that they have is still okay. And some of the offense cards obviously need to be revisited because
Oh
they're kind of
man,
crappy.
big time.
But I would say all of those things related to the Forge are a thing for another time. Right now they have bigger
Yeah.
issues. In terms of
Yeah.
balance, well, two things I would like to see. I would like to see them, of course, balance out stuff like Ravenous Hunter and stuff like that. Obvious that you already said that, guys. I want to see more card draw for each faction. Like, I would like to see overtime being removed, but factions being given card draw. More card draw because that's gonna, once again, allow more control type of gameplay. Because, for example, if you play aggro, you don't really want to have a card that just draws you card. You lose tempo, right? But control factions could benefit from that. So definitely we need more cards like Heroes Respite. We need that. Because there are currently, as we mentioned in part 1, factions that have no card draw, which is stupid. Now, that is one thing that we need. And I do definitely want to see more, like some of these named characters, these legendary ones, they really need to change, man. Like, and Papa's gonna give us an interesting one about Nemesor. I remember he said that, but before that, like, I made a video about some potential changes for the cards. I think I went a little bit overboard with the Terminator with 2 armor. I think 1 could be great though, because Venom Crawler's armor should definitely have gone on the Terminator, no questions asked there. But the thing is, like, we definitely need changes for the legendary big boys like Kato, like Iskandar, and like Avatar of Cain. And I know a lot of people instantly panicked, like, what do you mean destroy the whole board? We need exactly cards like that destroys the board, that swings the tempo. You need to have something on the control deck that is going to allow you to win. Like, let me give you an example. So you're playing against an aggro deck, an aggro orc, and he's bashing you. He's been beating your face all game, and then he bashes his face into the keyboard and drops the friggin' rock invasion. What are you supposed to do? Like, and you're telling me that I should not be able to clear that with an Avatar of Cain while also taking 8 damage to my face? Come on. We seriously need a lot of late game cards being useful so that if you let me get to that late game, then you're in trouble. Because, oh, you let me get my Avatar of Cain? Well, now you get this very big monster on the board. You let me get to my Kato Sicarius? Well, he's now going to provide insane durability. Let me get to Iskandar Kaon, now he's going to be giving me second Drachnian, which is for half the cost. What I'm saying is not like do everything exactly as I said. What I'm saying is that do not be afraid to make late game units strong, because
I agree
they're
with that.
supposed
Yeah.
to be strong. Like, there are so many cool units. You got Stompas and you got like Kaon and you got like Mauler Fiends and things. Most of these things are not playable because they're just too slow. Don't be afraid to
Yeah.
make it powerful. Give them some
Powerful. Yeah.
give them some powerful effects. Like, let's take a couple of examples from Hearthstone, right? Deathwing, destroy the board, discard your hand, 12/12 on the board. Alex Raja used to either half the enemy HP from 30 to, it just set the HP to 15. Also really good. Like, then you had like stuff like Malygos that gave you +7 or 5 spell damage. Like, there were a lot of like
Old Yoks are on. Old
Oh,
Yoks are on.
oh, Yogg-Saron, yeah, that's also a thing. Crazy
It's
guy that
7
casts like a
Yeah.
bazillion spells. Like, there's a lot of things in general that we could have for the late game. Like, I would say if I could give EG advice, what I would give them is stop making the vanilla units. Like in Legions, we always had that problem. Like, most factions have these very big tanks that are like 10 energy, 12, 14. 2 energy, ability destroy a unit. Who's gonna play that? It's just a 10 energy do nothing. But at the same time, then you suddenly had some factions that actually had a really good tank. Like, for example, there was Astra for for Iron Hands. You know what that used to do? It was a 9 energy 8/10, I believe. It had rally destroy a random enemy unit, and at the start of its turn, it repeated the rally. So every turn it was
Yeah.
alive, it was destroying units. So it was good.
That's
was
really
good.
powerful. You know, you made me think about the Elder Scroll Legends actually, Ecclesiarch. So because this is quite a good idea. I was thinking. So imagine you've got a 10 drop, right? That's a vanilla card. You know, we were talking about rarity, card rarity. So imagine it's like a vanilla, but it's a 10 drop, and it says something like rally, destroy an enemy unit. Yeah, so it comes on and it just kills an enemy unit. We've sort of got in the chaos the Voxcaster thing can kill an enemy vehicle, can't it? But just make it a unit. It doesn't have to be a vehicle. It just kills one unit, right? And then they've got the legendary version in the factions was called Mirak Dragonborn, and it was a similar thing. He was like a 5/5 body, but cost like 10 or 11 energy. But he was like a 5/5 body. But instead of destroying an enemy troop, he stole the enemy creature and brought it to your side. So it was like cool because it was like, okay, if I'm a beginner, I've got this cool, powerful finisher. But if I get the legendary guy, it kind of knocks it up a level. Do you know what I mean? And I think that kind of grading is something I'd love to see.
They should not be afraid of that, because in Horus Heresy Legions for Defenders of Caliban, you know what kind of deck we have? Like there's this card with Luther's handsome face on it. It basically says Irresistible Charisma, 7 energy. You know what it does? It steals an enemy unit and gives it fast. So you could play Avatar of Cain and I would steal it and make it bash your face instantly. And that's for 7 energy, okay? So, and it's not considered to be something that is like making Luther top tier. But it's definitely a powerful thing that always makes the opponent consider it, right? So there's a lot of things that they should not be afraid to experiment with and they need to do in order to incentivize more control gameplay. And on top of that, of course, there's also the thing that we need anti-stealth like as soon as possible, because that would also open a lot of possibilities. Like today I was thinking and discussing with some of the people on the Discord, what if Sergeant Telion had stealth, right? And then we were like, okay, but that's too overpowered. But if there was anti-stealth in the game, then you could possibly make Telion into something like 5 energy, reduce its health to like maybe 3 or something, and give him permanent sniper. Then you have it on the board. It's a very powerful unit, but if the enemy is running anti-stealth, well, he's just going to be like, bye, right? So it's a very... anti-stealth is very necessary right now in the game. And I know that the Tau are like 90% going to have it, but everybody needs to have it. And you know what I would do? Take a useless unit from each faction and give it anti-stealth. Like, you got the Eliminator, which is a crap unit, right? Give it anti-stealth. Give it, like, rally, random enemy loses stealth. There you go. Playable. So, it's like, you need to like, create some anti-stealth cards. And then there's also something that a lot of people have been discussing, demanding, and I know we mentioned it's kind of unfun, but a lot of people have been asking for silence sources as well, like jams. In, like, Horus Heresy Legions, we literally had a card called Jam. It was Sabotage. I mean, it was 1 energy jam a unit. That's all. So you would play 1 energy and it would silence a unit. And sometimes you could silence your own units. And you know why that was pretty cool? Somebody would stun your troop and you would silence your own troop to remove the stun and still go face. So there were some very interesting
similar thing in Hearthstone
there. Yeah. So like, and in general, I would suggest that Everguild, in their formula in general, make all of the abilities that exist, almost all, be able to target your own units as well. That creates so many cool opportunities for plays and some cool moments. Like, for example, don't make it like deal 5 damage to the enemy unit. Make it deal 5 damage to a unit, right? So that you can also, if something, remove your own unit from the board. That sometimes creates such cool opportunities.
Well, the Zagstruck player used it. He used it. Is it the Pain Boy, the 5 drop that has pretty good stats? And he basically hit his own Warlord in the face with the talent. So I think it does something like 1 to 3 damage.
And then heals.
But if it doesn't die, it gains 5 health. So he's just used it as a cheap heal. But I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, he runs Pain Boys. Anyway, that's the things that I'm expecting. Cool. Oh, and by the way, one more thing. I almost forgot. Everguild, please do not buff cards that are already good. Venom Crawler was the best drop already, and you buffed it even further. Don't do that. We don't do that. buff
I've got.
buff something else, like buff a Terminator or buff the Obliterator or whatever. Like
Mm,
buff something that needs a buff. Buffing something that's already strong is not good, because you just
you know.
saying, okay, so there was a person who ran a Terminator. No, no, no. Now you make sure you run a Venom Crawler. No, we don't want that. So, BJ?
I don't think we're going to get it. I think we've talked a lot in this episode about buffing existing units, and I think that that's been a stopgap until they get new content out of the door. And from what I've learned from previous card games, it's very rare that they just keep spending time on old cards. They've already spent a load of time making sure the base sets are balanced, and every time they change that affects the new player experience. It's a lot deeper than you think. So I think that as they start to get into their kind of rollout of new cards and expansions, that will be the way that they'll do it. They'll still obviously tweak the occasional card, but they're not going to dramatically redo cards. I mean, I agree with like pretty much most of what you guys have said. I'm not sure about camouflage. I quite like camouflage. Sometimes I think it's useless. Obviously, on the Venom Crawler, it's really powerful. I don't know, but I think most things you guys said, I kind of agree with. We're all saying the same thing about the late game cards, right? They've got to start doing something the turn they come down, and especially because it's 40k, right? And the Stomper in Orcs, it's like iconic. The Monolith in Necrons, and we can't use these cards. I mean, like, come on, man. These should be like the thing you're excited about getting to, right? Getting through your deck so you can drop the Monolith and win the game. So yeah, I'm definitely agreeing with you. My kind of things that I want to see that you guys probably haven't said most of it. I definitely want to see more control tools. I'm a bit worried about Tau. Tau are one of my favorite factions, and I really want them to be like the control faction. And I'm a bit worried that right now, like, if you think about the current game design, like, I'm trying to think, how are they going to do that? Like, I could see there being like a drop strike, like a quick strike crisis suit type build that becomes popular because it's got bigger bodies and it's a bit more aggro-y, tempo-y, mid-rangey. And I'm like, where's all the cool control? Where's the Seeker missiles and the broadsides? And how do the Fire Warriors come into play? And do they get deployed a bit? So like, there's a lot of, there's I'm really curious and a bit worried about the Tau, because I really want control to be. I totally agree with overtime. I think ditching that will definitely give just even the cards that exist, like the 3-mana cards, draw 2 cards. No one needs to play them. But if they got rid of overtime, I could see things like that coming in more.
Yeah.
A couple of things that haven't been discussed that I'd quite like to see change. I'm going to say it every podcast in the hope that eventually one day we get it. But I still really believe that the ladder system itself needs a bit of an overhaul. Papa, you've played Hearthstone, you've played LOI, and those games, like when you hit Legendary, it's like a big deal. And I feel like in this game, it's almost an accident. I'm a legend. Oh, I'm a top 50. It's like there's nothing. There's no kind of like reward to it. There's no feeling of reward to it. And I think that comes down to kind of like how they design the ladder. And I've already said about Gwent's Pro League. I that would be my like blue sky. Like if you hit the top 50 legendary, that your score. That they basically incentivize you to play multiple factions. So Papa isn't, rank 1 because of his Uriel score. He's rank 1 because his top 3 factions, his Uriel, his Eldar, and his Tyranid faction, that combined score is what makes him. And I think that's what gets you around those terrible Gazgul metas, right? Because you can't just dominate ladder now with one faction. That would be my dream. The other thing that I'm kind of interested in, because I've been thinking a lot about Tessel recently, which is a game that I really loved. If you think about the game, we have this warlord that's very much like on the field, isn't it? It's not like Hearthstone where you've just got a picture at the back. It's like it's right in the middle. And when your positioning in this game is somewhat important, right? Like you've got to think about, he might methodical destruction me. So where do I put my Vanguard unit? What's going to blow up next to it? And what it's just got me thinking about is, Papa said earlier that it's quite a simple game. The mechanics of this game are quite simple. It's quite easy to pick up. How could we add depth and mechanics to it? And I think one thing that's already the table semi-laid for us is, what about left of the warlord and right of the warlord? Almost like 2 lanes. Like we create. Imagine you had a card that said destroy all units, on the to the left of your enemy warlord.
Oh, interesting.
So like, it's an AOE, but now it's like, and I just can imagine the positional play. I'm a Tyranid. I've got to think about synapse and keeping things together. But if I do that, he's going to play is destroy everything to one side of the. So it starts to bring another level of like tactical thinking and stuff into it.
They could do a warlord like that because there is a mode in Hearthstone, the auto battler. I don't know. I don't remember the name because I didn't play Hearthstone for so long. And there is not Barden. What's his name? It's a dwarf with red beard, and he has the ability to target the most left and most right unit, or the unit with the lowest attack, with the lowest health,
Yeah.
or with the highest attack. Something like that for a warlord.
Yeah.
It's a really pretty good idea.
Yeah, like you can imagine orcs having something like gang up. So like if we have more bodies on to the left of our warlord than our opponent has to the left of his, we get +1 melee attack. Something like it's like there's loads of cool stuff you could do, but
Yeah,
that
that
plays with the positional.
also like how it was in Gwent, right? Like
Yeah.
destroy the highest attack unit on the lane, and yeah, there could be a lot of cool stuff. I think
Yeah.
down the line they could do that. When it comes to, I know that a lot of people right now are negative about this game. There's we're like getting a lot of very negative comments as well. Like for example, saying, "Don't play this, don't do this, don't do that." But in a lot of cases, what we could have here is that it becomes very popular as soon as the factions add up. So I can see more game modes and things being added to the game slowly.
And that was my final thing, is that I'm at the point now where this game just badly needs content. It needs new cards, it needs new factions, it needs things for people to do, and also people are partly attracted to this, I'm sure, just because of the IP, right? It's 40k, and if they haven't got their favorite, if they haven't got Imperial Guard, and that's the army you collected and the books you've read, it's less appealing to you, isn't it? So
Of course.
And also take more risk with the card design, like
Yeah.
Ecclesiarch already said. Like if you drop a big legendary card, like let's say they bring out Robuto Gilliman or something like that for Ultramarines, make him 10 mana, but if he comes, he changes the flow of the game. Take more risks. Nobody wants to play a unit with who does costs 10 mana and does 5 damage, while you can deal 5 damage with the 3 mana flanking unit from orcs.
Yeah.
This is take some risks with big cards. Make it more controlly, because it has the potential to be controlled because of the high wallet health, and because wallets are removing like small cards. But they have to make them have a bigger impact on the game, definitely. And like bring also like I'm looking for. I mean, maybe people are complaining about the game, how is it right now? Don't play it, etc. But Warhammer IP is so big. Like imagine bringing on the Primarchs or Lionel Johnson, Gilliman, or they bring Motarius to Chaos. It has so much potential, I think, and we're in a good state, because if you compare it to last season, they made a really good change, and also like the Neurotro, it shows me that the designers are listening to the community, and especially to you guys, that they didn't make the Neurotrope change about the 2 health 1 mana.
Yeah, that would have ruined the game, basically. It would have
killed
the game.
It will kill the game. They're listening and they're trying. It's a new game. Give it the time. They're doing faction, bringing out new cards, because we don't have that many choices right now. But I think the potential is there. Just take big risks. I don't think they want to take big risks at the moment. Make it a little bit more basic. The game is very straightforward. There is not too many variations to play. But every wallet is viable at the moment, in some way or another, and just take more risks is my point, and I completely agree with you guys.
Yeah. What was your idea for Nemesis? Did you have something earlier about Nemesis?
Listen, on Warhammer Combat cards, Nemesis, every wallet has like a tactical. The tactical is passive, what the wallet does. And for Nemesis, the game is like every unit costs specific points, and also wallets cost specific points, like the real Warhammer. And Nemesis' thing is that Vargot or Oberian is his bodyguard, and it's the only reason he's alive, because Vargot is such a strong warrior, and Nemesis is basically a psychopath, even in Necron affiliations.
Yeah.
So my idea would make Oberon a smaller body, still legendary, make him unplayable. He can be in your hand, he can be in your deck, but make him unplayable, and he comes out automatically as the last hit hits Nemesaur. Comes and protects him from the hit, and whoever or whatever attacks it gets hit by a Varguard.
You
So
know,
Nemesaur gets one more turn, you get a body on board which protects, and maybe some people don't play around this card and hit it with a Warlord in the face and like get 5 damage.
Papa, I'm absolutely with you on that one. I had like jokingly I made a similar card today, but it was like a little bit too much.
Really?
I was like, I was talking in the Discord. I was like, why? What if he just jumps out of the deck when something happens to Nemesaur, for example? But
Really?
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. So, but here's the thing. Your idea is super good, and I think that the only problem that there might be with that is the same similar thing that we would have with Makari. My idea, and BJ, you might remember, was that when Gaskell was going crazy, one of the suggestions I made was, why don't you make Makari a Gaskell exclusive, since it's his personal banner carrier? So instead of summoning just one Grot, why doesn't he summon Makari? And I was like, something like I was basically like discussing an option for that, but the only problem with that is that then they'll have to make another new legendary to fill the spot of that legendary which has become an exclusive for, which
Who
would,
plays Varguard anyway?
yeah, which would be a great thing to do, and I'm totally up for that, to be honest. I love that idea, but probably they'll more likely do that down the line, because right now probably they're not planning to do that. But it would be great. It would be a super.
But you understand, I'm not saying he should be like a 9 mana or
No,
have
no, no,
any
no, no,
mana
no.
cost. He's just a legendary card with a body like, let's say 5/5 and 6 health and 1 armor or
Yeah,
something
he
like
just
that.
jumps out and protects it.
And he comes out by himself.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
that's exactly like something that I love about Gwent, because there's a lot of cards that just jump out of your deck when a condition is met, and I think Warpforge could certainly experiment with that. Given like, if Warpforge could give enough control mechanics to control warlords, like big cards like the Avatar of Cain suggestion I did today, then you could also give aggro decks some suggestions. Let's say if you get like, for example, you could say if you get like 5 orc boys on the board, then why you can have a knob jump out of the deck or something, like, when a condition is met. Just like in Gwent, we have like, if you have 5 elves on the board, you get this a crazy elf lady jump out of the deck, for example. So there's a lot of things that could be experimented with down the line, and it'll be really cool. Honestly, I'd love to see something like that. I'd love to see this game become more in depth, because I think it has potential. Despite all of the negativity that it gets, it has huge potential, and I think it's gonna get there. Horus Heresy Legions wasn't a peach when it came out either, guys. Just whoever plays Legions, you should remember that. Like, come on, it was not a big deal when it came out. It slowly picked up.
Hearthstone also, I played it in beta. It's another game. It's another game than it's today. And I completely agree. Warhammer has such a big lore and such cool lore that you could play so much around with it. Like orcs. We could argue to do a podcast about possible orc cards, like the Grot tank. If you don't kill it exactly with the damage it needs to die to be on 0, if you overkill it, then Grots jump out of the tank or something like that. Or the dread destroyer, the big orc tank that he kills, that he shoots randomly, but as more units have on the board, the more he enrages and does more damage and stuff like that. This is again my point about doing more risks. Play
Yeah.
it more, make it stand out against other card games. It's a Warhammer card game.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, boys. Well, thank you so much for that. I think we have just done a monster podcast. It's been great having you join us, Papa. Really appreciate it, and it was fantastic. And well done for you've only been playing a couple of seasons, and well done for hitting top of the ladder with the Uriel deck. And yeah, we'd love to have you back on again in the future some point for sure.
Definitely. I want to do with Ecclesiarch the tier list about the Ultramarine card.
Definitely.
I look forward to that. I think they are my most rewatched videos that you've done, actually, Ecclesiarch. I've gone back and watched the Necron one probably about 7 times. So, yeah, definitely do that. But no, it's been a pleasure, guys. Been great having you. And yeah, obviously, guys, if you've not watched part 1, head over to the Ecclesiarch channel now and go and see that. Obviously, we both appreciate it. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, then please do. We are probably the two guys who are making the most content for the game at the minute, and we have big plans to do a lot more. There's a lot going to happen this year, lots of new releases, and we're going to be there covering it all for you. So like and subscribe, and until the next time, we'll see you later.
And see you guys.
Peace. Thank you for having me.